finally went through their mutual gratification exercise, he called her after midnight. You thought she did all the calling? You didn't read that State Patrol report? It was quite thick, and I didn't bring my copy, but if you read it, you will see he's not an innocent babe in the wood. This man is 50-something years old. And when a man does things like that, and you were in the military, and he slips out and cheats on his wife, whether it's with a prostitute or what they call a loose woman or whatever, first thing other men say, you're not getting at home what you need, they bring shame on their wives. There was a governor named Spitzer in New York, and he was slipping and dipping, and he was known as Mr. Clean. He was a Christian, I suppose. And when they got the goods on him, he wound up resigning. And there his wife stood there beside him, probably, perhaps, wanting to kill him, but had to stand by her man. Some of the women columnists talked about how the wives have to stand there blank-faced, empty-eyed, with these immoral rats who knew they were wrong and didn't come clean, and then after they were caught, they wanted to shed that crocodile tears and pretend that they were the victims. I wanted somebody from the Attorney General's office to be here, and I mistakenly thought somebody would be, because they never investigated the aspect of Senator Kintner violating the law. And here's what I was going to point out to Mr. Douglas, Mr. Peterson. He wrote a 3-page document justifying not taking action against Senator Kintner, and he was emphasizing that if State A punishes somebody for a crime committed in State B, to do so is to disrespect. Under the law, it was prosecutable, in my opinion. There are two types of jurisdiction: subject matter and personal. Subject matter simply means that it's something that the court can hear and take action on. What are we talking about? Personal jurisdiction means you have the individual who committed the act within the territorial jurisdiction of the court. Since the act was not a crime against any Massachusetts law, but a crime against the state of Nebraska, a crime against the property of the state of Nebraska, that it was in the possession of a resident of the state of Nebraska who is a Nebraska public official. That crime was committed against that property and the state of Nebraska through its misuse, not any law of Massachusetts. Massachusetts has no interest or concern about this. When he, the perpetrator, came back to Nebraska with the evidence, with the corpus as they call it, the substance of the crime in his possession, the Attorney General could have and should have charged him and let a court say that he could not. But he didn't want to. He was busy suing the state of Colorado, suing the federal government, suing the EPA, and other things outside of the state, but he cannot look at what's going on in the state. And for those people who are so worried about $75,000 being spent for a special session, not one of them, they're supposed to be watchdogs of the taxpayers' money, ever raised a whimper when the governor, the Attorney General, and the Director of Corrections spent $56,000 for drugs that they never got. They did not follow the protocol for making a state purchase where you give the money after you receive the goods or the services. Not only were the goods and services never delivered, it would have been a violation of federal law if they were delivered. There was not even a contract. I talked to the auditor about it. He investigates all kinds of things, even private operations. But he today, and he discussed it with me, he's supposed to be looking at it, about that misspent money by the executive department, and he can't do anything about that. So people are not held and brought to account. And these people who come here and talk about the cost of a special session, that at least is in accord with the Constitution and the laws. But to give up $56,000 to a person who beat the state out of money on 2 other occasions before in the same activity, I think is a misspent dollar, misspent taxpayers' money. And you were the one who demanded that I resign for words that I spoke that you didn't even hear. And the Constitution makes it clear that a person in the legislature cannot be called to account for anything said during debate, on the floor, committee hearings, and state courts and federal courts have made it even broader. But you didn't know that because you were a new person, you were misled by people, you were just outraged. But at the very time he was one of those who excoriated me and demanded that I have my resignation on the desk of the clerk at 9 o'clock the next morning, and all I did was laugh, because he didn't know what he was talking about. And at the time that I was being attacked, and these people don't know anything about it either, one of my colleagues sitting to my right was driving not Senator Hadley, Senator Tyson Larson, driving people to distraction by always talking about charter schools. So somebody, I don't know who it was, called a point of order on Senator Larson, that he shouldn't be allowed to say that. So you know what? I stopped being the one attacked to speak in behalf of the right of Senator Larson to talk on that floor about whatever he chose to talk about. And I was in opposition to what he was talking about, by the way. So when these people talk about a standard, they should examine the way I conduct all of my affairs, and they see a standard that they would find unbelievable. Because I practice what I believe, and it's because I'm not religious. But I'm saying it to you, Senator Schnur, because you were in the military, and I was too, but I was never shot at. I never shot at anybody. I was never overseas, and I went in to get my stuff out of the way so I could go to law school. Not because I was a patriot, none of that. It was an obligation, and I could have gotten, like Donald Trump, excused from that. But here's the point I'm getting to. You know what the Uniform Code of Military Justice is, and you know there's conduct called conduct unbecoming an officer. And it does not list every conceivable act that an officer can commit that would be unbecoming, and you know that. There is no way any committee, and the public is being misled if they think that a committee is going to sit down and make a laundry list of things that you can and cannot do. That is unrealistic, and it's not done anywhere. And I would not agree to have anything like that. Wherever the line is, Senator Kintner crossed it. Why do you think you all say cyber sex instead of mutual masturbation? Because you don't want to use the word that is appropriate and in the dictionary in a proper way to describe it. You find the word abhorrent, and this conduct was. And to pretend that this is not something unbecoming a member of the legislature, that it does not reflect negatively on the legislature, that we would look the other way on something as what I call low down and gutter snipers as this. He called that woman, as he referred to her, but he also told her she was not the devil. He also talked about how hot her body was and what he liked about her. Did you know that? Had you read that? Yes. Read what he said. And you think the legislature, knowing this, should do nothing. Well, I'll tell you this, and Senator Bloomfield was upset about it. I don't care what the rest of the senators do or don't do. I have an obligation, and I'm going to discharge mine no matter what criticism there is